The restraints bite into his chest. Not hard enough to bruise, just enough to remind him he didn't choose to be here. 8-year-old Deshaun Harris can't feel his legs, hasn't felt them in 7 months, but he feels everything else. The leather seat vibrating under him, the too cold air conditioning raising goosebumps on his arms, the Alpha scent flooding the car, with smoke and something sharp that makes his stomach twist. The Alpha hasn't looked up from his tablet in 30 minutes. Deshaun counts the seconds between breaths, between traffic lights, between the moments when he almost asks where they're going and the moments when fear clamps his mouth shut. His mama signed papers. His daddy nodded at men in suits. And now he's strapped into the back of a car that costs more than his whole house, watching buildings blur past tinted windows. How much longer? Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. The Alpha's fingers pause on the screen. We're close. That's not an answer. Deshaun learned the difference between answers and deflections back when doctors started using words like permanent and experimental and if we're lucky. Adults talk around the truth when the truth is too ugly to say straight. His wheelchair sits folded in the trunk. He heard them load it, the metallic click of the latch, the scrape of wheels against carpet. That sound used to make him angry. Now it just makes him tired. The car slows, turns. The hum of the engine drops to a purr. Deshaun's reflection stares back at him from the window, small, thin, looking younger than 8 because his body stopped growing right around the time it stopped working. His legs rest against the seat like borrowed things, like props he's supposed to pretend belong to him. Am I gonna be able to walk again? The Alpha finally looks up. His eyes are the color of storm clouds, gray and distant and holding back something Deshaun can't name. That's what we're hoping for. Hoping, not promising. The facility appears through the windshield like something from a dream. Glass and steel, all clean lines and reflected sky. Too modern to be a hospital. Too quiet to be a place where people get better. A sign near the entrance reads Genesis Medical Research in letters so small you'd miss them if you weren't looking. The car stops. Engine cuts. Silence rushes in to fill the space. Before Deshaun can ask another question, his door opens. A different Alpha leans in, younger, wearing scrubs the color of thunderclouds. His hands unbuckle the restraints with practiced speed, then slide under Deshaun's body and lift. Deshaun goes stiff. Being carried feels like being erased, like admitting his legs are just weight, just dead space taking up room. Easy little man, the Alpha murmurs. I got you. The smell hits him as they move toward the building. Antiseptic and floor wax and something underneath that reminds him of the funeral home where his grandmother's service was held. Sterile, final, through the glass doors, into a lobby that echoes, past a reception desk where a woman in white doesn't look up, doesn't smile, just makes a note on her computer like Deshaun is a package being logged in. The elevator ride lasts forever and no time at all. 3rd floor, long hallway, doors on both sides, all closed, all identical. The Alpha carrying him doesn't slow down, doesn't explain. Just walks like he's done this 100 times before. They pass a window overlooking a courtyard Deshaun will never walk through. They pass another door, and through the crack he sees someone, another kid, maybe, hooked up to machines that beep in rhythm with a heartbeat that might not be their own. His room is at the end of the hall. The Alpha sets him down on a bed that's too big, too soft, too much like a cage dressed up as comfort. Medical equipment lines the walls. A camera blinks red in the corner. The window has bars hidden behind decorative scrollwork. Someone will be in to check on you soon, the Alpha says. Then he's gone. Deshaun stares at the ceiling, counts the tiles. 24 across, 16 down. 384 squares of white nothing pressing down on him. A voice crackles through a speaker he didn't notice. Welcome, Deshaun. Please remain in bed. Your intake assessment will begin shortly. He tries to sit up. His arms shake with the effort. His lower body stays flat, unresponsive, a puppet with cut strings. The door clicks, locked from the outside. That's when he understands. This isn't a hospital where they fix broken kids. This is a place where they study them, where they figure out what makes one body heal and another body fail. where 8-year-old boys become data points in someone else's research. His mama's voice echoes in his head. They said you're special, baby. They said you're gonna help other kids like you. But the hallway outside is too quiet. The machines beep too steady. The air smells too clean. And Deshaun realizes with a coldness that starts in his chest and spreads outward. He's not here to be saved. He's here to be measured while they figure out why he's still alive. What would you do if you woke up in a place where no one explained why you were really there? The needle slides into his arm at 6 in the morning. Deshaun doesn't flinch anymore. 3 days in this place taught him that flinching just makes it take longer. The nurse, a beta woman with tired eyes and hands that shake slightly, doesn't meet his gaze as she fills 4 vials with blood the color of rust. "Good boy," she murmurs. He hates being called that. Hates how they praise him for holding still while they take pieces of him. Like being easy to stick makes him brave instead of just too scared to fight back. She labels the vials with numbers, not his name. Patient 147C. That's what the bracelet on his wrist says. Not Deshaun Harris. Not a kid who used to play basketball in his driveway and climb trees in the park. Just a code. Just a sample. The door closes behind her with a soft click that sounds like a lock turning. He's alone again. The schedule carved itself into his brain without anyone handing him a paper. 6 a.m. blood draw. 7 a.m. vitals check. 8 a.m. something they call therapeutic assessment, but feels more like watching 2 technicians bend his legs through motions his brain can't remember how to make. 9 a.m. a syringe full of clear liquid that makes the world go fuzzy at the edges. Noon, food that tastes like it was designed by a computer. 2 p.m. more tests. 4 p.m. neural scans that trap him inside a machine that hums loud enough to rattle his teeth. 6 p.m. observation. 8 p.m. lights out whether he's ready or not. Nobody asks if he's scared. Nobody asks if it hurts. They just write things down on tablets and speak in voices too low for him to hear. Deshaun isn't the only one here. He knows because he listens. Late at night when the building settles, he hears sounds through the walls. Crying sometimes. Voices calling for mama or daddy. Once, he heard someone screaming, high and desperate and cut off so suddenly it made his heart stop. The next morning, that room stayed empty. He asked the nurse about it during his vitals check. Where'd the kid next door go? Her hands paused on the blood pressure cuff. Transferred to a different unit. Why? Different needs. She stripped off the cuff, made a note, left without looking back. Different needs. That's what they say when they mean we don't want you asking questions. On day 4, a doctor visits. Not a nurse, not a technician. An actual doctor in a white coat with her name embroidered in blue thread. Dr. Vivian Chin. She sits in the chair beside his bed and crosses her legs and smiles like they're friends. How are you feeling today, Deshaun? Fine. Any pain? Tingling? Anything unusual? No. She makes a note. Any dreams about walking? Running? The question catches him sideways. Sometimes. That's normal. Your brain is trying to reconnect pathways. It's actually a positive sign. Her smile widens. You're responding very well to the initial protocol. He doesn't know what that means. Doesn't know what protocol they're following or why responding well sounds more like a threat than a promise. Can I see my mama? Dr. Chen's smile flickers. Family visits are scheduled for next month. Right now, we need you focused on treatment without outside distractions. Distractions. That's what his parents are now. How many other kids are here? Several. Each with unique cases. Are they getting better? She pauses too long. Some are showing promising results. Some. Not all. Not even most. That night, Deshaun presses his ear to the wall between his room and the next one. He hears breathing. Shallow and quick, like someone trying not to cry. He wants to knock, to tap out a message in Morse code he doesn't actually know. To do something that says, I'm here too, you're not alone. But the breathing stops, and the room goes silent. And Deshaun pulls back from the wall with a weight in his chest that feels heavier than his useless legs. Morning comes. The nurse with shaky hands draws more blood. The technicians move his legs through their puppet dance. Dr. Chun appears during observation and tells him he's being moved to a priority trial group. What's that mean? It means you're special, Deshawn. Your body is responding in ways we didn't anticipate. She leans forward, and her eyes are bright with something that looks like hunger. You're going to help us understand why some children improve and others don't. He wants to ask about the others, the ones who don't improve, the ones whose rooms go empty overnight. But Dr. Chun is already standing, already moving toward the door, already treating him like an experiment that gave the right answer. The door clicks shut, and Deshawn stares at his legs, thin and pale and still as death, and wonders if getting better means watching everyone else get worse. If you were the only one improving while others disappeared, would you stay silent to keep getting help? The Alpha from the car stands at his window. Deshawn doesn't hear him enter, just feels the shift in the air, that wood smoke scent cutting through the antiseptic, and turns his head to find the man watching him like he's a puzzle missing pieces. The Alpha doesn't smile, doesn't introduce himself, just stands there in a suit that probably costs more than Deshawn's family's rent for a year, holding a leather folder against his chest. They tell me you're doing well. Deshawn doesn't know what to say to that. I guess. You don't sound convinced. I can't feel my legs, so I don't know what well is supposed to feel like. Something flickers across the Alpha's face. Guilt, maybe, or recognition. He moves to the chair Dr. Chun usually sits in but doesn't sit down. Just stands beside it like he's not sure he's allowed to get comfortable. My name is Terrence Vale. I fund this facility, this research. Why? The question seems to surprise him. Because I believe in what they're trying to accomplish. Helping children like you regain mobility, independence. Deshawn studies him. You know a lot of paralyzed kids? Terrence's jaw tightens. No, but I know what it's like to carry responsibility for something that can't be undone. It's the strangest answer Deshawn's ever heard. Adults usually lie smoother than that. They usually have their stories straight. Can I ask you something? Deshawn says. Of course. Why me? What do you mean? Why am I here? Why not some other kid? Terrence goes very still. When he speaks, his voice is quieter. You were selected because your case showed potential for recovery. Your injury was severe but recent. Your age, your baseline health. Everything suggested you might respond to treatment. Might. Yes, might. At least he's honest about that part. Deshawn looks at his hands. Small, with knuckles that look too big and fingers that tremble when he holds them out. What happens if I don't get better? You will. But what if I don't? Terrence doesn't answer right away. When he does, he sounds tired. Then we'll keep trying until we find what works. It's not a comfort. It's a contract. A promise that Deshawn will stay here, stuck in this room with its blinking red camera and its locked door, until his body does what they want it to do. Do you know the other kids? Deshawn asks. I've been briefed on the other participants, yes. Are they getting better too? Terrence's fingers tighten on the folder. Some are progressing. There's that word again. Some. And the ones who aren't? Medicine isn't perfect. Response rates vary. That's why research is necessary. To understand the variables, to refine the protocols. Variables. Like kids are math problems that just need the right equation. Deshawn wants to ask what happens to the variables that don't solve right. But something in Terrence's eyes stops him. Something dark and buried that looks like an answer Deshawn isn't ready to hear. Instead, he asks, Can I see them? The other kids. That's not part of the protocol. Why not? Because isolation prevents cross-contamination of results. We need clean data. Clean data. That's what they are. Not children, not people. Just numbers that need to stay separate so the experiment doesn't get messy. Terrence opens the folder. Inside are charts, graphs, and tables and medical terms Deshawn doesn't understand. Your mobility metrics are exceeding projections. Neural activity is showing reconnection in areas we thought were permanently damaged. You're proof this can work. Proof. The word lands heavy. What if I'm just lucky? Deshawn asks. Terrence looks up sharply. What? What if I'm not proof of anything? What if I just got lucky and everyone else didn't? For a long moment, Terrence doesn't answer. Then he closes the folder and tucks it back under his arm. Luck is a variable we're trying to eliminate. That's the point of research. He moves toward the door. Wait, Deshawn says. Can you tell my mama I'm okay? Terrence stops. His hand rests on the door handle. I'll make sure she knows you're progressing. Not okay. Progressing. The door closes behind him. Deshawn stares at the ceiling and counts tiles. 384 squares of white pressing down. He thinks about the other kids. The ones in rooms he can't see. The ones whose metrics aren't exceeding projections. The ones who might be lying in beds just like his, wondering why they're the unlucky ones. And he wonders if proof is worth it when it means someone else has to fail. Would you trust someone who funded your treatment but wouldn't let you see the others being treated? Deshawn's right leg moves. Not much, just a twitch, a muscle contraction that ripples up his thigh and makes his knee bend half an inch. But it's movement. Real, actual movement that he caused by thinking about it. The therapy room erupts in noise. Marcus, the technician who's been working with him every day, actually shouts. Dr. Chun gasps and rushes forward with her tablet. Already recording. The other tech, a quiet woman named Shanice, claps her hands and laughs like she just won something. Do it again, Dr. Chun says, her voice sharp with excitement. Deshawn, try again. He concentrates, thinks move as hard as he can. His quad tightens. His knee bends. His foot shifts against the mat. The room explodes again. They run him through the motion 6 more times before his leg gives out completely, too exhausted to respond. But the damage is done. The proof is there. Deshawn Harris, patient 147C, paralyzed for 7 months, just moved his leg on command. Dr. Chen's hands shake as she makes notes. This is remarkable. This is exactly what we hoped for. Marcus helps Deshawn back into his wheelchair, grinning so wide it looks like his face might split. You did it, little man. You really did it. That night, Terrence visits again. He brings flowers, white roses that smell too sweet in the small room. I heard, he says. Congratulations. Deshawn shrugs. It was just one little movement. It was more than that. It was proof the treatment works. Proof that the protocols we've developed can restore function. Terrence sits, leans forward. Do you understand what this means? For you? For other children? I guess it means I'm getting better. It means you're giving hope to families who thought there was none. Hope. Such a small word for such a heavy weight. Over the next 2 weeks, Deshawn's progress accelerates. 1 movement becomes 2. 2 becomes 5. 5 becomes his first assisted step, barely more than a controlled fall into Marcus's arms, but a step nonetheless. They celebrate every milestone, take photos, record videos. Dr. Chun presents his case at some conference he's not invited to, and afterward she comes back glowing with success. You're famous, she tells him. Medical journals are requesting interviews. News outlets want to cover your story. Famous. Like being able to twitch a leg makes him a celebrity instead of just a kid whose body is finally doing what it's supposed to. The attention increases. Camera crews visit. Reporters ask questions through DR. Chun because Deshawn's not allowed to speak to them directly. He hears fragments of the coverage through the walls, breakthrough in pediatric spinal treatment, hope for paralyzed children, miraculous recovery. Nobody mentions the other kids. Deshawn still hasn't seen them, but he knows they're here. He hears them at night, hears the crying, the voices calling out, the sounds of struggle through walls that aren't thick enough to hide everything. On day 32, he takes 10 steps with a walker. Everyone applauds. Dr. Chun calls it a triumph. But Deshawn notices things the celebrating staff doesn't. Or maybe they notice and just don't care. He notices how conversations stop when he wheels past certain doors. How some rooms that should be occupied stay dark. How Marcus's smile doesn't quite reach his eyes anymore. He notices the way Dr. Chun looks more tired every visit. The way her hands tremble slightly when she reviews his charts. the way she avoids certain questions. During his afternoon neural scan, Deshawn catches a glimpse through the observation window. Another kid being wheeled past in the hallway, older, maybe 11, thin in a way that looks wrong. The kid's head lolls to one side. His legs hang off the wheelchair like sticks. Their eyes meet for half a second. The other kid's eyes are empty, not sad, not scared, just empty, like he's already gone somewhere else inside his head and left his body behind. Then he's wheeled out of sight. Deshawn finishes the scan, gets rolled back to his room, sits in the chair by the window and stares out at the courtyard he still can't walk through. His legs work better than they did a month ago. He can move them on command, can take steps with help, can stand for almost a minute before his muscles give out. But something's wrong. Something's wrong with a place that celebrates one kid's victory while others disappear into empty rooms. Something's wrong with research that needs clean data more than it needs honest answers. Something's wrong with getting better when everyone around you is getting worse. That night, Deshawn can't sleep. He lies in bed and listens to the building. Hears footsteps in the hallway. Hears wheels squeaking. Hears a voice, young, desperate, crying for help before being cut off by a door closing. And he understands with a clarity that makes his chest tight. He's not special. He's not proof of some miracle treatment. He's just the one who happened to survive while they figured out what kills the others. What would you do if your recovery came at the cost of others suffering in silence? Deshawn starts keeping track. Not on paper, they'd find that. Not on any device, they monitor everything. Just in his head, building a map of sounds and patterns and things that don't add up. He tracks the hallway. Mornings, he hears wheels at 5 a.m. heading toward the north wing. Never coming back the same day. Afternoons, he hears voices raised in argument behind closed doors. Then sudden silence that feels like someone lost. He tracks the staff. Marcus works his sessions, but Marcus's shift ends at 3. After that, other technicians appear. People whose faces look worn down, whose movements are too quick, too efficient. People who work the graveyard shifts with the kids nobody celebrates. He tracks the rooms. His room is 347. The room next door is 348. Across the hall, 352 and 353. He knows which ones have lights on after 8 p.m. He knows which ones stay dark for days. On day 41, during his morning assessment, he asks Marcus a simple question. How many kids got better before me? Marcus doesn't look up from adjusting the resistance bands. Focus on your own progress, Deshawn. But there were others, right? In the program before I came. Every case is different. That's not an answer. Marcus finally meets his eyes. You're doing great. That's what matters. What happened to them? Deshawn. Did they go home? The pause stretches too long. Some did, yes. And the others? Were transferred to facilities better equipped for their needs. Better equipped. Code for stopped responding or got worse, or we don't talk about that. That afternoon, Deshawn positions his wheelchair near the door during observation period. The door's thick, but if he presses his ear to the crack, he can hear pieces of conversations in the hallway. 2 technicians pass by, voices low but not quiet enough. Another failure this week. How many does that make total? Vale still wants to expand the program. Board only cares about the Harris case. The Harris case. Him. They're not using his patient number. They're using his actual name, which means he's not just data anymore. He's the story they're selling. The voices fade. Deshawn pulls back from the door. He's not proof the treatment works. He's proof they can hide the ones it doesn't work on. That night, he hears it again. The crying through the walls. But this time he recognizes something in the sound. Not just fear or pain, but exhaustion. The kind of tired that comes from hoping too long with nothing to show for it. He presses his palm against the wall. Wishes he could send a message. Wishes he could say, I hear you. I know you're there, you're not invisible. But the crying stops, and the wall stays silent. And Deshawn sits back in his bed with the weight of understanding pressing on his chest. On day 47, Dr. Chun visits during her scheduled observation. She looks different, older somehow. Her coat is wrinkled. Her hair is pulled back, but pieces have escaped. She sits heavily in the chair. "You're progressing remarkably," she says. "We're going to start physical therapy protocols next week. Real walking, not just assisted steps." "What about the others?" Her expression tightens. "What others?" "The other kids in the program. They're receiving appropriate care." "Are any of them walking?" Dr. Chen's fingers drum against her tablet. "Your case is unique, Deshawn. We're still analyzing why you're responding when others show different outcomes." Different outcomes. Not failure. Not harm. Just different, like it's neutral instead of devastating. "How many have died?" The question lands like a stone through glass. Dr. Chun goes very still. "That's not. We don't discuss other patients' information. But some have. Died. I mean," she doesn't deny it. Just looks at him with eyes that have seen too much and said too little. "Medical research involves risk. That's made clear in all consent forms. Consent forms his parents signed. Consent forms he never saw. Did they know?" Deshawn asks. "The other kids' parents. Did they know their kids might die?" "They knew the risks." "Did they know their kids were gonna die so I could walk?" Dr. Chun stands abruptly. "That's not how research works. We're trying to help everyone. Your success gives us data to improve protocols for future participants." Future participants. More kids. More rooms. More nights of crying that stops too suddenly. She leaves without saying goodbye. Deshawn sits in the silence and thinks about what he knows now. Thinks about the pattern he's built in his head. Thinks about being patient 147C, the lucky number in a sequence of failures. He's not special. He's not blessed. He's not proof of anything except random chance and the willingness of adults to sacrifice some children to maybe save others later. His legs work better than they did 2 months ago. He can stand for 3 minutes. Can walk 20 steps with a walker. Can feel sensation returning in places that were numb. But the victory tastes like ash, because somewhere in this building kids are dying. And somewhere in this system people are letting them. And somewhere in the data, his name is being used to justify it all. That night, Terrence visits. He looks tired too, worn down by something Deshawn's just starting to understand. "They tell me you've been asking difficult questions," Terrence says. "Are they difficult or just true?" Terrence doesn't answer right away. He sits in the chair, crosses his legs, studies Deshawn like he's trying to see something he missed before. "What do you want to know?" he finally asks. "How many kids were there before me?" 14. The honesty shocks Deshawn into silence. "How many got better?" "You're the only one showing significant improvement." "And the others?" 3 showed minor gains that eventually reversed. 8 showed no response. 3 experienced complications. Complications. Such a clean word for something that probably hurt. Did any of them die? Terrence's jaw works. 2. But their deaths were attributed to underlying conditions, not the treatment. Attributed. Decided. Justified. "You don't believe that," Deshawn says. "I don't know what I believe anymore." It's the most honest thing any adult has said to him since he arrived. Deshawn looks at his hands. Small and thin and shaking slightly. "I don't want to be proof anymore." "You don't have a choice." "Yes, I do." Terrence leans forward. "What are you going to do, Deshawn? Stop trying? Stop improving? Throw away your chance to walk again?" "Maybe." Deshawn meets his eyes. "If walking means pretending I don't hear the other kids crying. If walking means being okay with being the only one who survives. You're 8 years old. This isn't your responsibility." "Then whose is it?" Terrence doesn't answer. Just stands, smooths his suit, and walks to the door. "I'll be back tomorrow," he says. "We'll talk more then." But Deshawn knows what tomorrow will bring. More tests, more progress, more celebration of his body while other bodies break down in rooms he's not allowed to see. And he knows with a cold certainty that settles in his bones. If he keeps getting better, more kids will be enrolled. More families will sign consent forms. More children will become variables in an experiment that only works for the lucky ones. He stares at the camera in the corner, wonders who's watching, wonders if they feel anything when they see an 8-year-old boy realize he's not a patient. He's a cover story. If you discovered your miracle came from others' suffering, would you give up your recovery to expose the truth? The USB drive weighs nothing in Deshawn's hand. Marcus left it behind yesterday after logging his session data. Just sitting there on the side table, small and black and full of information nobody meant for Deshawn to see. He's been staring at it for 20 minutes, turning it over in his palm, feeling the plastic edges press into his skin. Dr. Chun arrives for observation right on schedule. She sits in her usual chair, tablet balanced on her knee, and starts asking the standard questions about pain levels and sensation and dreams about walking. Deshawn interrupts her. "I want to make a deal." Her fingers pause mid-swipe. "What kind of deal?" "I'll do whatever you want. Interviews, photos, testimonials. I'll be the face of your program." He swallows hard. "But I want something first." "Deshawn, you're 8 years old. You don't negotiate your medical care. I want to see the files. All of them. Everyone in the program before me." Dr. Chen's face goes blank. The kind of blank that means she's calculating, measuring risks, trying to figure out how much he actually knows. "That information is confidential." "Then I stop cooperating." "You can't." "I can." Deshawn holds up the USB drive. "And I've already started documenting what I see, what I hear through the walls, which rooms go empty, when kids disappear. The silence that follows is sharp enough to cut." Dr. Chun leans back slowly. "Where did you get that? Does it matter?" "Deshawn, you don't understand what you're asking for. I understand that I'm the only one getting better. I understand that means everyone else got worse. I understand you're using me to hide them." Her jaw tightens. "That's not. It's more complicated than that." "Then uncomplicate it. Show me the files." She stands abruptly, paces to the window, stares out at the courtyard. When she speaks, her voice is quieter. "If I show you those records, you'll see things that will hurt you. Outcomes that didn't go the way we hoped. Children who suffered despite our best efforts. They're suffering now. I hear them." Dr. Chun turns. Her eyes are red-rimmed, exhausted. "What do you think you'll accomplish with this information?" "The truth. The truth won't change anything. Won't bring back the ones we lost. Won't fix the ones who aren't responding. But it'll stop you from hurting more kids while pretending everything's working." The words land like a punch. Dr. Chun flinches, and Deshawn sees it then. The guilt she's been carrying, the knowledge she's been burying, the choice she makes every day to keep going because stopping would mean admitting what they've done. "I need to make a call," she says finally. She leaves. The door clicks shut but doesn't lock. Deshawn waits, counts ceiling tiles, listens to his heartbeat hammer against his ribs. 30 minutes later, the door opens again. Terrence walks in. No suit jacket this time. Sleeves rolled up. Face drawn tight with something that looks like anger and fear mixed together. He sits down hard in the chair. "Dr. Chun says you have demands." "Not demands. Terms. You're 8 years old, and I'm the only reason your program hasn't been shut down yet." Deshawn keeps his voice steady even though his hands are shaking. "So yeah, I have terms." Terrence studies him for a long moment. "What do you want?" "Access to all patient files. Everyone who came before me." "That's protected medical information." "I don't care about the law. I care about the truth." "And if I give you access, then what?" "Then I decide if I keep cooperating. Keep being your proof." Terrence's fingers drum against the armrest. "You realize what you're asking could destroy this program, could end research that might help future children. Or it might stop research that's killing them." The air goes tight. Terrence's face hardens. "We haven't killed anyone. 2 kids died. You told me yourself. From underlying conditions. That's what you wrote in the reports. Doesn't make it true." Terrence stands, walks to the window, braces his hands against the glass. His shoulders are rigid with tension. What's on that drive? Dates, times, patterns. Which rooms had kids and which rooms went empty? When I heard crying. When I heard nothing. Deshawn pauses. It's not proof. Not yet. But it's enough to make people ask questions. You're blackmailing me. I'm protecting myself. And the others. Terrence turns. His eyes are hard, calculating. If I give you what you want, you keep walking. Keep improving. Keep being the success story. If you give me what I want, I'll tell the truth. Whatever that truth is. The truth could destroy everything. Then maybe everything deserves to be destroyed. The silence stretches. Deshawn can hear his own breathing, can feel sweat gathering under his arms, can taste fear metallic and sharp on his tongue. Finally, Terrence nods once. Sharp and final. I'll arrange access to the files. But Deshawn. His voice drops lower. Be careful what you wish for. Some truths don't set you free. They just give you new cages to live in. He leaves without another word. Deshawn sits alone in his room, the USB drive still clutched in his hand, and wonders if he just made the bravest choice of his life or the biggest mistake. Would you risk everything you've gained to expose a truth that might destroy your only chance at recovery? The files arrive at 2 in the morning. Not physically. They appear on a tablet left outside Deshawn's door with a note that says only read carefully. He wheels himself back to bed, props the tablet on his lap, and opens the first file. Patient 131A. Jayla Mitchell, age 7, paralyzed from a swimming pool accident. Enrolled in the program 4 months before Deshawn. Initial scans showed promise. Week 2 showed complications. Week 4 showed rapid decline. Week 6 transferred to intensive care. Week 8, deceased. Cause of death listed as respiratory failure secondary to pre-existing condition. But the notes buried in the file tell a different story. Notes about experimental dosages. Notes about adverse reactions. Notes about continuing treatment despite warning signs because the potential benefits outweigh current risks. Deshawn's hands shake as he scrolls to the next file. Patient 133B. Marcus Webb, age 9. Spinal injury from a car crash. Showed no improvement for 6 weeks. Developed seizures in week 7. Transferred to a different facility. Current status: unknown. Patient 135C. Aaliyah Foster, age 6. Responded well initially, then regressed. Motor function deteriorated below baseline. Removed from program. Current status: unknown. He reads through all 14 files. 14 children who came before him. 14 stories that ended in failure or death or disappearance into the catch-all category of transferred. 3 children died. Not 2 like Terrence said. 3. The third death was listed as cardiac event unrelated to treatment, but the timeline showed the event happened 6 hours after a neural stimulation session. 8 showed no improvement at all. Just got weaker, got sicker, got removed when they stopped being useful data. 3 showed temporary gains that reversed bodies that remembered how to move for a few weeks before forgetting again, leaving them worse off than when they started. And then there's patient 147C. Deshawn Harris. The anomaly, the success, the one whose body decided to cooperate while everyone else's broke down. He closes the tablet, stares at the ceiling, feels nausea rolling through his stomach. Morning comes but Deshawn doesn't sleep. Just lies there replaying the files in his head. Jayla Mitchell, who loved gymnastics before she drowned. Marcus Webb, who wanted to be a basketball player. Aaliyah Foster, whose file included a photo of her smiling gap-toothed at the camera. All of them gone. All of them erased. All of them turned into data points that justified continuing the program because maybe the next kid would be luckier. The next kid was Deshawn. At 7 a.m., Marcus comes for the vitals check. He takes one look at Deshawn's face and stops. "You okay, little man?" "I read the files." Marcus goes still. "What files?" "All of them. Everyone who was here before me." Marcus sets down his equipment slowly. sits on the edge of the bed. I'm sorry you had to see that. Did you know? About all of them? He nods. Some of them. I didn't work with everyone, but I knew the program had a high failure rate. Why didn't you say something? To who? The people running the program? They already knew. The board? They didn't care as long as one kid succeeded. Marcus's voice is bitter. That's how research works sometimes. You sacrifice the many hoping to save the few. That's not research. That's just killing kids slowly. Marcus doesn't argue. That afternoon, federal investigators arrive. Deshawn watches through his window as 3 people in dark suits and serious faces walk into the building flanked by lawyers and officials. He doesn't know who called them. Doesn't know if it was Terrence trying to get ahead of exposure or someone else who finally grew a conscience. But he knows what it means. The building shifts. Staff move faster, quieter, with the kind of nervous energy that comes from knowing you're about to be examined. Doors that were always locked suddenly stand open. Rooms that were always occupied suddenly sit empty. Dr. Chun doesn't visit that evening, or the next day, or the day after that. On day 63, Marcus wheels Deshawn to a different room for his session. Not the usual therapy room, a conference room with a long table and uncomfortable chairs. A woman in a navy suit sits on one side. She has kind eyes and a voice that sounds like she's used to talking to scared kids. My name is Agent Reeves. I'm with the Department of Health and Human Services. I need to ask you some questions about your time here. Deshawn tells her everything. About the files. About the sounds through the walls. About the rooms that went empty. About being called proof while other kids died. She listens without interrupting. Takes notes on a legal pad. When Deshawn finishes, she's quiet for a long moment. You're very brave, she finally says. I'm not brave. I'm just tired of pretending I don't know what's happening. Well, because of your information, we're halting the program pending a full investigation. No new enrollments. All current patients will be transitioned to standard care. Standard care. The thing Terrence threatened him with. Now it's all anyone gets. What about me? Deshawn asks. Your treatment will continue, but under different protocols. More conservative. More oversight. She pauses. You may not progress as quickly. You might plateau where you are. Will I lose what I got back? We don't know. Honest, at least. Better than promises nobody can keep. Agent Reeves stands. Thank you for your courage, Deshawn. You may have saved lives today. But Deshawn doesn't feel like a hero. He feels like a kid who got lucky while others didn't, and now he's losing the only thing that made the luck feel worth it. That night, he tries to take steps without the walker. Makes it 3 before his legs give out and he crashes to the floor. Nobody comes to help because the overnight staff has been reduced. He pulls himself back into the wheelchair alone, breathing hard, tasting blood where he bit his tongue. His legs ache, the good kind of ache that means muscles working, but also the bad kind that means they're reaching their limit. He's not going to keep improving. The program is shut down. The experimental treatments are over. Whatever progress he made is all he's getting. And somewhere in this building, other kids are being told the same thing. That the miracle is over. That hope is being packed up and filed away with all the other failed experiments. Deshawn wheels to the window, stares out at the courtyard. Wonders if stopping the program was the right choice or if he just destroyed the only chance any of them had. If exposing the truth meant losing your progress, would you still do it? The hearing room is bigger than Deshawn expected. He's not there in person, too young, too far, too complicated to transport. Instead, his face fills a screen at the front of the room. Testimony recorded a week ago in a lawyer's office with his mama sitting just off camera crying quiet tears. 6 months have passed since the program shut down. 6 months of physical therapy 3 times a week instead of every day. 6 months of his body slowly forgetting what it remembered. He can still walk with forearm crutches on good days. On bad days, the wheelchair comes back out. He's learned to be okay with both. The hearing is being live-streamed. Deshawn watches from home on his mama's laptop, sees himself on that screen, sees the rows of senators and lawyers and family members who lost children to the program. The questions start simple. Name, age, when he enrolled. Easy answers that establish credibility. Then Senator Martinez leans forward. In your own words, Deshawn, can you describe what you experienced at Genesis Medical Research? Deshawn's recorded voice fills the room. I got better. My legs started working again. I went from completely paralyzed to walking with help. That's real. Pause. You can hear breathing in the silence. But I was the only one. The room shifts. People lean forward. There were 14 kids before me. I never met most of them, but I heard them through the walls. I tracked when they left. I noticed when rooms that should have been full stayed empty. His voice stays steady even though watching himself say these words makes his stomach hurt. The program worked for me. But that doesn't mean it worked. It means I was lucky, and they used my luck to hide everyone else who suffered. Senator Chun, no relation to Dr. Chun, asks the next question. Did you witness abuse or neglect? No. Everyone was professional. That's what made it worse. They weren't mean. They were just efficient about deciding which kids mattered and which ones didn't. Did anyone explain the risks to your family? They explained risks generally. But they didn't tell us I was the only success. They didn't tell us other kids were getting worse while I got better. They made it seem like progress was normal. It wasn't. The questions continue. Deshawn watches himself answer, watches the faces in the room react, watches his mama in the background with her hands pressed to her mouth. Then comes the question that matters most. What would you say to other families considering experimental treatments for their children? Deshawn's face on the screen is serious, older than 9, aged by knowledge no kid should carry. I'd say hope isn't the same as proof. One person succeeding doesn't mean the treatment works. It means it worked once, maybe by accident, maybe by luck. He takes a breath. And I'd say if a cure only looks good when you ignore the failures, it's not a cure. It's a lottery, and the house always wins. The phrase catches fire. Within hours, it's on news sites, medical ethics blogs, patient advocacy forums. Parents share it. Doctors debate it. It becomes the center of every conversation about experimental pediatric research. If a cure only works when no one is watching the failures, it's not a cure. Deshawn becomes the face of something bigger than himself. Not the miracle child anymore. The whistleblower. The truth teller. The kid who chose honesty over hope. The investigation concludes 3 months later. New regulations. Mandatory adverse event reporting. Independent oversight boards. Criminal charges against 3 members of the Genesis board for falsifying safety data. Dr. Chun loses her medical license. Not for incompetence, for knowing better and doing it anyway. And Terrence Vale gets called to testify. Deshawn watches that too. Watches the man who funded his treatment sit in a chair that's too small, face drawn and gray, while senators dismantle his justifications one by one. You funded a program that injured children, Senator Martinez says. You knew the failure rate, you knew the risks, and you continued anyway. Why?
Terrence's answer is quiet. Because I thought if we could save even one child, it would be worth it. You did save one child, Mr. Vale, and in the process you harmed 14 others, 3 of whom died. Do you understand the difference? Terrence's face crumples, just slightly, just enough to show he does understand. That he's been understanding for a while now. That understanding is its own punishment. Yes, he says, I understand. He loses everything that matters to men like him. The foundation disbands. His reputation shatters. His name becomes associated with harm instead of help. But he doesn't go to jail. Lawyers are too good. Technicalities too convenient. He just goes away, disappears from public life, becomes a cautionary tale instead of a criminal. Deshawn doesn't know how to feel about that. Relief that he's gone. Anger that he's not in prison. Exhaustion at caring about it at all. The real victory isn't Terrence's downfall. It's the regulations, the oversight, The rules that say you can't experiment on children without real accountability. The real victory is that other kids won't be enrolled in programs like Genesis, won't be turned into proof while others become statistics. But victories taste different when you're living with the cost. Deshawn's mobility peaked 6 months ago. He can walk short distances with crutches, can stand for 5 minutes before his legs shake, can feel sensation in most of his lower body but not all of it. He's not cured. He's improved. There's a difference, and he's learned to live in that difference. Would you trade your own recovery to save others from suffering? Terrence appears on Deshawn's doorstep on a Tuesday afternoon in October. Deshawn's mama answers the door, sees who it is, and her face goes hard. "You got some nerve. Please." Terrence looks smaller than Deshawn remembers. Older. "I just want 5 minutes. Just to talk to him." Mama looks back at Deshawn, who's sitting in the living room doing homework at the coffee table. He nods. She doesn't like it, but she lets Terrence in, stands in the doorway with her arms crossed, making it clear she's not leaving them alone. Terrence sits on the couch, doesn't get comfortable, just perches on the edge like he's ready to leave at any moment. "How are you?" he asks. "Fine." Deshawn sets down his pencil. "You?" A bitter smile. "Not fine." They sit in silence for a moment. Deshawn's mama shifts her weight, arms still crossed, eyes hard. "I came to apologize," Terrence says finally. "I know it doesn't change anything, doesn't undo the harm, doesn't bring back the children we lost. But I wanted you to know I see it now. What I did, what I failed to do." "Why'd you do it?" Deshawn asks. Not angry, just curious. Terrence's hands clench in his lap. "Because of you. Not you specifically, but the accident that paralyzed you. It happened because of negligence in my logistics company. Faulty permits I signed off on without checking. A truck jackknifed it on the highway and..." His voice catches. "I felt responsible, so I tried to fix it. Threw money at the problem. Found the most experimental treatment available. You felt guilty. I felt like I owed you. Owed every child I'd harmed through my carelessness." Terrence looks up, eyes red. "But I didn't save anyone. I just created more victims while chasing redemption." Deshawn's mama makes a sound in her throat. Terrence flinches but doesn't look away from Deshawn. "What happens now?" Deshawn asks. "For me? I don't know. The lawsuits will take years. My reputation is gone. But that's not why I came." He reaches into his jacket, pulls out an envelope. "I set up a trust fund for your ongoing medical care. Therapy, equipment, whatever you need. It's separate from my assets, protected from litigation. You can't refuse it." He sets it on the coffee table. "I can't give you back your childhood. Can't undo what happened. But I can make sure you're taken care of." Deshawn looks at the envelope but doesn't touch it. "What about the others? The kids who got hurt? Separate settlements are being negotiated, funded by liquidating the foundation's assets. The ones who died?" Terrence's face breaks. "Their families are being compensated. It's not enough. It'll never be enough. But it's something. Money. The only language he knows. The only way he can apologize." Deshawn's mama steps forward. "We don't want your guilt money. It's not guilt money. It's debt." Terrence stands and he looks exhausted. "I took something from Deshawn. From all of those children. I can't give it back. But I can acknowledge the debt." He moves toward the door, then stops. "For what it's worth, I'm glad you survived. Even if it means living with the knowledge of what it cost." "It cost a lot," Deshawn says quietly. "I know." Terrence leaves. The door closes behind him. Deshawn's mama sits beside Deshawn on the couch and pulls him close. "You don't have to forgive him," she whispers. "I know. You don't have to take his money either. But we need it." Deshawn looks up at her. "My therapy costs too much. Insurance doesn't cover half of what I need. And I'm gonna need help for the rest of my life." She's crying now. "I'm sorry, baby. I'm so sorry we signed those papers. You thought you were helping me." Everyone thought they were helping. He leans into her. But thinking isn't the same as knowing. And knowing isn't the same as caring enough to check. They sit together in silence. The envelope stays on the coffee table, unopened. Later that night, Deshawn opens it. Inside is a letter from a law firm and bank statements showing a trust fund with enough money to cover his care for the rest of his life. At the bottom of the letter, a handwritten note in Terrence's shaky script. This won't balance the scales, but maybe it'll ease the weight. Deshawn folds the letter, puts it back in the envelope, thinks about Jayla Mitchell and Marcus Webb and Aaliyah Foster and all the others whose names he memorized from those files. Thinks about how justice doesn't heal bodies, doesn't reverse damage, doesn't bring back the dead. Justice just acknowledges that harm happened, that someone was responsible, that the debt is real even if it can't be paid. And sometimes that's the best anyone can hope for. Can money ever truly compensate for the harm caused when children become experiments? 3 years pass. Deshawn is 12 now, sitting in his room with a laptop balanced on his knees. Video chat open to a girl named Kiana. She's 9, paralyzed from a car accident 6 months ago, being recruited for a new trial at a research hospital in Atlanta. My parents really want me to do it, she says, voice small through the speakers. They think it'll fix everything. What do you think? Deshawn asks. I'm scared, but I don't want to disappoint them. He recognizes the weight in her voice, the pressure to be grateful for the chance to be experimented on. Here's what I'll tell you. You're not broken. You're just different now. And different isn't wrong. But if I could walk again, then maybe you will. Maybe you won't. But either way, you're still you. That's enough. Kiana's quiet for a long moment. Was it worth it? The program you were in? Deshawn considers carefully. I got something from it. Mobility, progress. But other kids lost everything. So was it worth it? I don't know. I just know I'm here, and I get to choose what I do with that. What did you choose? To tell the truth, even when it's hard. They talk for 30 more minutes. Deshawn doesn't tell her what to do. That's not his job. Just gives her information, questions to ask, red flags to watch for. The things he wishes someone had given him. After the call ends, Deshawn wheels himself to the window. It's raining, soft and steady, making the street outside look clean and new. His phone buzzes. Text from Marcus, who left medical research entirely and works in patient advocacy now. How'd the speaking prep go? Deshawn's scheduled to talk at a medical ethics conference next month. 4th one this year, telling his story over and over, hoping it stops other kids from becoming statistics. Good. Still working on the ending. What's the ending? Deshawn looks at his legs. Thin but stronger than they were 3 years ago. He can walk short distances with forearm crutches. Can stand for 10 minutes. Can feel most sensations but not all. He's not cured. Not whole. Not the miracle they wanted. But he's here. He texts back. The ending is I'm not finished yet. Because he's not. He's 12. He mentors kids like Kiana through video calls and support groups. He speaks at conferences. He works with lawmakers on pediatric research regulations. He has a whole life ahead, full of adaptive equipment and accessibility fights and explaining his body to strangers who think they understand. But also full of purpose, of helping others avoid what he went through, of turning survival into something that matters. A year ago, Terrence sent him a letter, not asking for forgiveness, just telling him he volunteers at a children's hospital now, reading to kids in long-term care. Nothing glamorous, nothing that erases what he did, just small, quiet acts of showing up. Deshawn didn't write back, doesn't know if he ever will. But he kept the letter, because redemption isn't a destination. It's a direction, and sometimes the best people can do is keep moving toward it, knowing they'll never fully arrive. Deshawn closes his laptop, transfers from wheelchair to bed without help. A skill that took 2 years to master. His legs cooperate today. Tomorrow they might not. That's just how it is. He thinks about the courtyard at Genesis he never walked through. The rooms that went empty, the kids whose files he memorized. He thinks about being patient 147C, the lucky number, the anomaly, and he thinks about home, not a place, not a body, not a cure, just the feeling of being believed without being used, of having control over his own story, of knowing he was never proof of anything except his own strength. The rain picks up outside. Deshaun pulls his blanket higher and closes his eyes. Tomorrow he'll wake up and his legs might work or might not. Tomorrow he'll do therapy and schoolwork and maybe another video call with a scared kid who needs to hear the truth. Tomorrow he'll keep choosing what comes next. Because he didn't choose to be paralyzed. Didn't choose to be the one who survived. Didn't choose to carry the weight of 14 names he'll never forget. But he's choosing what he does with it. And that's the only miracle that matters. He's not finished yet. Not even close. Thank you for watching Deshaun's story. If you found this powerful, please subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next story.